We got everybody in here now, so I think we're good to get started. So yeah, anybody watching this, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, thanks for swinging on by, and welcome to another episode of Second Scout. I'm your host, Potato RTS, and with me, as always, is DrDabston, and really excited tonight because we have Golden League Top 8 qualifier, Wham! So Wham, congrats on that big achievement, and thanks for stopping by, and how you doing?
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I'm doing awesome, you know. I'm enjoying the tournaments. Yeah, I am doing well.
Good deal. Dabs, saw you a couple days ago. You practicing some Chinese and French, trying to deepen your Civ pool. How's that been going?
It's been all right. I've also thrown Roos into the mix as well, and
Nice.
it's a necessary practice. I realized that after the first 6 minutes of a build order, I got that down, and then after that, I just fall apart and feel embarrassed.
Yeah, that's I feel like a lot of the player base, they got the first like 8 minutes or so down, and then after that, it kind of goes off the wheels unless you're really good, like Wham. Yeah. So anyway, Wham. Want to get to know you a little bit better because you look at the top 8 of Golden League, and 6 of those names are all names we know because they've been around the RTS scene for a long time, and then it's you and your brother, right? So there's still a lot of fans out there that follow AOE4 that don't really know much about you guys except you're Canadian and that you're twins. So, kind of, what's your background in RTS games and how'd you get into Age of Empires?
Okay. Well, I have a. I wouldn't say that. I have a, okay. I have a. I have quite a RTS background, so I would say it's hard to pinpoint an exact date, but I would say about 10 years or so. I started playing Stronghold 2, just casually. Um, Yeah, I played Stronghold, I played Stronghold Legends, then I went into AOE3. Didn't play that competitively at all, just team games, nothing serious. And then I played SE2. And SE2 was kind of like the big game RTS for me. Um, I got well, hardest one I didn't do that great, but I got like Masters, I think. Peaked at
Mm-hmm.
High Masters. And then towards Legacy of the Void, I got GM, and I've always been hooked on RTS since about StarCraft. So that's pretty much my background to RTS. But how I got into AOE4, um, how I got into AOE4 would just be like, I played AOE3, I played SC2, and I saw a new RTS coming. I'm like, this is a good idea to get into it, because everyone's gonna be here.
Makes
Cool.
sense.
Yeah.
So we saw last week, obviously, you and your brother ended up matching up in the redemption bracket, and you were able to take that victory there. Did y'all have previous competitions that have y'all met in StarCraft 2 at all, or as far as like ladder games, things of that sort, or do y'all kind of try to hopefully stay distant from each other?
Uh, that's a good question. Well, the goal is never. I don't want to fight Puppy Paw. I don't think he wants to fight me. Not that we, won't fight each other, but we don't. It's not. It's like a bittersweet if you win, and it's kind of sad if you lose. Like it normally would be. But yeah. Just because we haven't been too competitive in the other games, we haven't fought each other that much. And on SC2, we'd probably avoid each other when queuing up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So when you were talking about kind of your RTS history, you listed a lot of games there. Have you and your brother kind of played the same games at the same times, or were you doing
Oh,
different things?
oh no, we definitely played the same games at the same times.
Yeah.
We even played World of Warcraft. We did that for
Oh,
God. At least 4 or 5 years. It was a big investment for us. Not anything serious, but big time investment. And it's always been like I've always steered towards the competitive scene. Trying to get the highest rating in the World of Warcraft arenas and stuff, and that's just what I find fun in games.
makes sense. So we saw Puppy Paw had a 12-hour stream the other day celebrating his followers. He's been streaming more, and now I see you streaming today a little bit more. Are you picking up the grind and trying to jump up there? You gonna pull a 12-hour one as well soon?
I'm not sure about 12 hours, but yeah, I've been trying to do it a lot more. It's been a little difficult for me to balance like hardcore practice and streaming. Like this is something I'm like Beastie, Marine World, all those guys have been doing this for God knows how long. For me, this is like I started this last month. It's like it's definitely something I'm getting a handle of as I'm going.
Makes sense.
I gotta ask about the low graphics. Well, what's that about?
Um, I think it was Lidical who actually talked about this in EGC TV, but I used to play on a really crappy PC, and when I first got the game, so this would be September, um, and it couldn't handle graphics that were anything above the lowest settings, so I had to use those, but and I didn't mind them. And then as I think it was probably November, December, I got a new computer. I could have changed the graphics to high, but I just didn't. And it's nothing like, oh, it's not like I like the graphics visually. It's just the high graphics, they just yeah, I don't know what to say. They just
You're
Well,
used to it.
yeah,
It
you just
makes
got used to it, so
like
yeah, yeah, we
um
gotcha.
stuck in your ways.
yeah, I'm stuck in my ways.
I know how
I
that
can't get
goes.
over it. And every stream I do, someone's always commenting about it. I need to change that at some point, to be honest,
I,
just because like I can't handle it anymore. I
I
can't.
already saw it today. Someone was commenting on the TC being invisible.
Yes, yes. There's a few things like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So as you kind of got into Age of Empires and started grinding the ladder, when did you kind of have that realization that you could really be like a top player in this?
That's another good question, because like the first time I played Age of Empires 4, I had no intentions to do that. I was just gonna and I was just gonna say, okay, you know what? It's a fun game. I played SC2, try to get as good as possible. I was never where near, actually doing big tournaments or whatever, because the SC2 uh, competitive scene is so difficult to get into,
Mm-hmm.
expect because they're so good. They're so good. So AOE4. Yeah, that's a good question because the first tournament Genesis, I didn't participate in that, and I could have, but I didn't. Just because I thought, I'm not gonna do well, and there's no point. That when was that? November, I think.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
so.
October, November, somewhere around there. Yeah.
November, yeah. Um, and then after that, I started to do extremely good on Rata. Like I was getting like 50. I think by Steel Series I was top 20, and I decided to participate in that. And I'm like, okay, I can, I'm top 20 on the Rata. I should do well, and I didn't do so well. So I think I was top 64 or something, which isn't bad for my first
Who
tournament. But
who knocked you out? Because that was kind of single elimination. The way it was seeded was
yeah,
kind of weird. So it was kind of a brutal tournament in that regard.
yeah. I got so this was when Bruce and Mongoose were like the best civs. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was
Oh
all
yeah,
horse
Fast Castle,
archers
Horse Archer, Mega Die. Yep.
and tower rushes. Yeah, and I picked Bruce and Bruh, the
Ah,
Brazilian
Mm.
guy,
yeah.
AoE2 Bruh. He tower rushed me as Mongoose, and he kicked me out. Um,
It's just one of the two.
Well, was that a
yeah,
best of one? I can't remember.
it was the best of one,
Oh
and the
my, well
next
that's
series was the
that's
best of three.
brutal.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, but I think Puppy Paw played against Vortex, so he got it harder than me. And it was in like the round of 128 or something. It was quite unlucky.
Quite unfortunate.
Yeah. Then yeah, because I remember you did pretty well in the N4C qualifier. You just came up a little bit short there, so you were kind of rounding into form around that time.
Yeah, well, the N4C qualifier was after the Winter Championship, and
Mm.
I came fourth in the Winter Championship,
Oh, I
which
forgot. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, which was kind of my breakthrough. But I never expected to do that well, obviously. I just had some good games with Super Pro, and then then I kind of, had some games versus Hera and got knocked out like 3-0, 2-0, whatever it was. Yeah. I don't think even then I was like, as well-rounded as I am now, so it's
Mhm.
That was also during, I think, the prime of Harrow's subathon when he was grinding at least 12 hours every single day. So
yeah. He did win the tournament, so, no shame.
If you're gonna lose, at least lose to the winner, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we got a new patch this week, a little bit smaller. So I think we got these notes like Friday, and it went live Monday, I think. But most interesting thing is probably what's not in the patch, and that's that they left the mangonels alone. No changes there. So we had Blade on last week. So he's very happy with the way mangonels are right now. So Wham, what's your opinion?
I thought mangoes were fine, and I still think they're okay, but I think they could use a small buff, to be honest. Especially versus civs like English. Longbows are just so dominating that it's actually hard to play against them. Um, Especially with the weak Magno at this moment. It feels it feels quite annoying to say the least. I would like to see them get a small buff, and I'm not sure what kind of buff that would be, but there's a lot of ideas, and I think one of the ideas that could be used would be more damage to ranged units.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think that
but
one makes a
yeah,
lot of sense, and I think Grubby and I heard someone else mention that based off of the numbers, I think it's zero point 0.9 tiles is what makes the most sense. I think it's 0.75 right now with the nerf, and it was 1.25 before. But they said almost split the difference, but a little bit more on the downside just based off of the way the numbers work.
yeah. Like I'm not looking at the numbers or anything, but a small change is fine. Like just anything to see them get used to it more, because at the moment, other than like me, I don't think anyone is using them,
Yeah,
to be honest.
it's you and Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got some team map size changes, which I think is fantastic. So they were way too big before. They've made them a little bit smaller, which is good. Also happened way sooner than I thought. Kind of the last patch, they made comments about this, and it sounded like it was going to be a while, but they got it in, and I just loaded up a game against AI just to kind of see how it felt. I haven't played PvP on teams yet, but it feels better. So I'm happy about this change for all the team game players out there.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just in time there's a low elo 2v2 tournament, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out this weekend off of the new map sizes because I think that'll have kind of an added incentive to actually have a 2v2 tournament as far as, higher elo play because before it was so maps are too big, there's so many different things. By the time you're sending your longbows in, the opponent hits castle age before your first ones get there because the map's so big. And so now you might see some added competitiveness there, some definite different builds, some things of that sort. So it'll be cool to see how that works out going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. I always noticed that the team maps were way too big, and it's like it's a change they could have done a long time ago, and I think a lot of people asked for it, so it's nice to see.
Yeah.
Usually don't care too much about map specific changes, but Altai getting more trees, I think that's kind of a big deal. I haven't really played Altai much since the patch, but uh, especially because the spawns were used to be kind of uneven as well. So I hope that makes that map a little better.
Yeah, they did the deer change also, which
Hmm.
it's an interesting change. Nothing drastic, but it's a cool change. Like to see where that goes also.
Balance. So stone walls under construction can now be attacked by all units. That's another good change in my opinion, because the just putting the wall down and putting the foundation down and just having the villager get the single tap on each one and then having it be like an impenetrable force field was kind of dumb. So I'm glad that's no more.
Yeah.
I still don't know how big of an effect that'll end up happening when you have, oh, I have 3 spearmen that are going to try to torch down this stone wall that just got built up by 3 villagers, and then it's just not going to do anything. It's hard to think about wooden walls even when you have a decent amount of spearmen there or horsemen or whatever, and the villager builds it up a foundation, and you can't just immediately torch it down unless it's that one tap, just like you said, with one villager. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think they'll make some changes there, but as far as I'm sure Wham goes, it doesn't really matter much. I feel like almost all the pros have gotten so used to not building stone walls at all, or if so, it's way later in the game, because they're always worried about accidentally building them in feudal.
To be honest, I've never built stone walls that much, except past fortress, which is good because it's banned in feudal. But yeah, I mean it's a change. I don't think anyone's too upset about it, and it's a good change. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got some changes to the Chinese extra materials. I've never touched China, so when I read this, I was like, who cares? But then we got that BC versus Marine Lord game on King of the Hill, and I was like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
I see now. So, a
What
little
is
bit of
that?
a nerf to China there.
Is that like the repair on the stone walls with the
Yeah,
towers?
where the
Yep.
tower auto heals the stone walls.
Okay. Yeah,
It looks
I've
like
never
the
used that
repair
before either.
range. Yeah, it looks like the repair range is significantly reduced and probably doesn't. Yeah, it no longer stacks as well. And that was the big key. If you would get like 4 or 5 towers up in a row behind wall segments, they would all be healing multiple segments. So then it was, you'd have 3 bombards there and they wouldn't even be able to break through the wall.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
that's all.
but if you're China, you can just rebuild the wall insanely fast anyway, like BC did. So, I think that strategy is still going to be viable on King of the Hill.
That's right. King of the Hill is it's a interesting map, especially with the new changes. It had its problems before, and now it has its new problems now.
And then the other kind of notable thing in the patch notes here is that the sheep carcass bug with the deer is now fixed. So
Oh,
I was not brave enough to use professional scouts with that bug present, but now I can use it again. So I'm happy about that.
oh, thank God, because that bug to, happened to me and Polypod more times than I
Yeah.
can count, and it's a terrible bug. Like you can't see it. Um, it's hurting your economy more than you can think. Like 10 villagers, that's a second TC. It's a stupid bug and it's very bad.
I heard that I think it was Core playing against a Muslim, and Core dropped his second TC near deer, and the Muslim dropped a sheep near it and killed it, just to cause some headache there for Core. So yeah, it definitely is glad to see that the bug is gone, because it definitely is. When 10 villagers, when it's 2 villagers, and it creates a massive difference over the course of the game.
Yeah, I think BC killed some sheep near the deer in the tournament I did this week, the DCCS. I don't think that was intentional, but it ends up bugging, yeah, like 10 villas and yeah.
Oh, poor Core, man. Oh.
Yeah, some of the other bugs fixes, it looks like, are just pretty minor ones, nothing too crazy, nothing really to harp on there.
Yeah, I hadn't really accounted any of these, but yeah. So I think that's it for the patch notes. I'm kind of glad that they're taking a slower approach to balance changes, especially with how much we've seen the meta shift over the past like 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think any giant changes were necessary.
Yeah, I think so too. And just in general, I think the balance changes have been good. And I saw actually Dabston posted a Reddit post about it, saying that they were good, and some people are like, oh no, they're not good. Like, but
Yeah.
it's a new game. There's 8 civs. You're not gonna have perfect 50-50 win rates. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I definitely did post a Reddit post about that, and then both of y'all ended up commenting, I believe, and definitely got some negative comments, definitely got some regular positive comments, and ultimately I think that where the game is now, yes, there are Civ matchups that are favored completely one-sided. Obviously, French HRE is the main one there, but ultimately, if you look at balance when it's win rate to win rate, 48% to 52% is a pretty narrow margin for how fast the game has kind of made these updates, where it used to be back in what we were just talking about, the Roost, Horse Archer, Mangadai, Mongol Tower Rush days. They were 65% win rates, and that's just miserable to play against.
Yeah. No, I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I'm. It kind of sucks on ladder to have a Civ be a hard counter to your pick, but on the same hand, like on the pro scene as a spectator, I think it adds a lot more strategy to like the Civ drafts, and I think that's really interesting. So, even if that continues to be the case, I don't think it's the worst thing.
Also, it's a game of chess. There's always a way to counter, a way that you should be able to outmatch the opponent in one ways. Even if, you have less of a chance, you still always have that chance. It's a game of skill.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a game of skill. And there's how many maps on the route? I don't know. Let's just say 8. 8 maps. Compare that to SC2. You have 5 maps that are kind of the same. These maps in AOE4 are very different. It's extremely different. And like you may pick Atri on Mongolian Heights and French on Mongolian Heights. That's probably an even matchup. But then you pick them on Arabia, and it's just totally one side to French. So you have to understand that too. It's hard to balance 2 civs on 2 different maps. It's not that easy.
Right, that is what a lot of people don't realize as well, and it's team games is what people forget about as well. That's why you saw the horse archer nerf of decreasing in a range. I heard it was a very big problem on team games, and even still, we saw now horse archers are coming back a little bit here with the new fast castle roost build still being an option that we've seen by the Muslim and a couple others here recently too.
Yep.
All right, so Pesty, I'm assuming Pesty is behind the EGC TV Reddit account. He made a post saying that Golden League is just the beginning. I know there have been kind of some people wondering now that we're kind of on the home stretch of Golden League here, what the future of the competitive scene would be, since UGC TV has been behind most of the tournaments so far. And nothing concrete announced yet. He also did a kind of a Q&A stream, but definitely stuff on the horizon that he has planned. I would not be surprised if we got an announcement like within the next couple of weeks, or if I were him, I would make a big announcement like on the finals day of Golden League. But yeah, so sounds like there's a lot of stuff coming. So really happy to have Pesty in the community. He's done so much for us.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's definitely a big supporter of AOE4, and that's awesome to see, because AOE4 doesn't need it that much, but it kind of needs it. It needs someone to help it get along to competitive scene more than it is at the moment. He's doing a lot for AOE4.
Then I think he said a couple interesting things in the Q&A today. So one of them was in future events. So obviously for Golden League, he wanted to stick with like well-known casters, right? That makes a ton of sense. But going forward, he said he's really interested in kind of getting some new faces casting and get some people their first opportunities. So I know Dabston, you've been dabbling in it.
Yeah, I know I've gotten a couple of raids from EGC TV after some of their casts where I was casting as well. I would never complain about doing so. Would be interested in it. I definitely have to work on it a little more. The more I do it, the more improvement I make, though.
You do. I gotta warn you though. You have to watch what you eat. He put a Scoville limit in the handbook due to the Drongo spicy chicken incident. So.
I won't ever complain about it. I'll be okay with that.
And then he also mentioned, like, and I've picked up on this on some comments he's made in the past on Reddit, that he kind of wants to get some of the community at large involved too. So maybe some lower elo tournaments are on the horizon. So us plebeians can participate as well.
Yeah, I know for anyone watching who doesn't know of those, there's actually a couple already that have been scheduled, I believe, by Chewbacca. He does some
Hmm.
low elo tournaments. There's going to be a 2v2 one this weekend, but there's usually one every weekend or so, and you can always jump in those. They're an enjoyable time and have had good participation, some good fun, and it's always different playing in a tournament and playing in quick ladder or even ranked. There's a different added experience. Add, you have to ban a civ, you have to play different civs, potentially you get yours banned out, you have the draft, things of that sort. So it's always a fun experience to do and check out if you haven't done it.
And then Wham, Pessy made a comment. So he kind of was talking about like the top players. So he thinks there's like a big 11, right? So it's U8 that qualified for the top 8 of Golden League, plus Leonok and Mista and B, right? And I think that's pretty reasonable based on tournament results. So who outside of that, maybe you've played against on ladder or in Golden League, do you think has like the best chance to kind of jump up in that group?
Yeah, there's a few names for sure. And you kind of saw this at the end of like round 3 of Golden League. There was Casper, there was
Hmm.
Running, he beat the Muslim.
Yep.
Um, Jeez, I'm sure there's so many more. Just give me a second. I'm actually gonna look at it because I don't want to miss anyone.
There were definitely a couple big names, people who got through a little bit further than expected. I believe Dinky got through pretty far.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dinky had a
Dinky's.
good run. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Hyatt always gets far.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure if I would call it a big 11, but it's hard to say because maybe we do consistently well, better than before, but
I think the big thing is, seeing the consistency is key. I think
yeah,
there's some people that always have the opportunity to take one, potentially two games, potentially a series off, but it's doing that game after game. And you know, just how I was mentioning in the redemption losers bracket, it's all good names at some point down there. So it's not like you're playing randoms on the ladder. You're playing pro after pro after pro. So you have to be consistent after consistent, and that's really where I feel like the Big 11 have done that. And you might see running or state or someone make a push one week, but is it 3 weeks in a row? Is it,
Yeah.
how far in the ladder is it? Is it just the first weekend there, or is it
Yeah.
both weekends?
Yeah, like we saw sort of, the first round go super far and then got knocked out super early in rounds 2 and 3. Um,
Yeah.
whereas, you and Puppy Paw able to consistently do it all 3 rounds.
yeah, yeah, I would agree. But there are definitely some people who are consistent, but just at a sorry low level, I would think. Like Running, he got 40 points. That's only what 25 behind B, and
Hmm.
he played against Renok in the lower bracket. He went 2-1. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely some up and coming pros. It's hard to name them all, but yeah.
And I know you mentioned Casvo as one of the first names. He recently talked about on Reddit, or on Twitter. He tweeted out saying, he is now committed more to the actually fully to the AOE4 scene. So I'm sure all of his commitment to one game rather than trying to balance two will make him progress a little bit faster than he was before as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, Caspa's a nice guy. I wish him the best.
He brought out the Abbey Kings of Golden League, so, mad
Yes,
respect.
I yeah, I don't know what to say about that game because I didn't scout and I just assumed he was going council hall and he was not. So yeah.
Oh,
Well, you weren't the only one he did it to. You know,
Yes.
yeah, both games that were broadcast, he did it as English, and I'm sure he was probably doing it in the earlier rounds that weren't broadcast on UGC TV. So something he tinkered with, and I hope he brings it back.
Yeah, it's cool to see.
So let's see. Speaking of Golden League, let me show it here. There we go. So we're in the group stages. So the format. So each player So it's round robin within the two groups. Each player has one series per weekend. So this group stage is going to last 3 weeks. Then the top two from each group go to a 4-person semifinals. So question: you and Puppy Paw are in different groups. Who do you think got the tougher draw?
A lot of people have said my group is tougher, but I mean, it depends, right? Like, if you want to get top two, um, it's a tough question. um,
I mean, both groups are brutal, right? Like,
It's a double-edged sword question.
I mean, in theory, if you want to get top two, my group is harder because Viper is higher seed. And if you want to just get top three, my group is easier because the Muslim is lower seeded, right?
yeah. The thing that's really interesting in Puppy Paw's group, right, is Luciferon and Vortex. You don't see them as much. So the other the three in your group, they stream, right? So you can see what they're up to.
Yeah.
Or Luciferon and Vortex, they're going to do a lot of practicing against each other. I don't think people really know who their Smurfs are on ladder. So you're kind of going into that series a little bit blind.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can kind of have a guess at who those Smurfs are, just because, like, well, it's not mine, it's not Puppy Paw's, it's not a certain amount of people. It's probably them, but you can't just, like, say, oh, he's picking these civs on that map, so I'll just count them. You can't do that because it's, like, not 100%, right? But yeah, his with Luciferon and Vortex, it's a little bit more open-ended.
I think both of y'all took
Yeah.
games off of the brothers in y'all's respective brackets when y'all matched up, or maybe it was in different weeks or so. I know
Well,
you
Wham
ended
beat
up-
Vortex.
Yeah, I knew Wham
last
2-0'd
weekend,
Vortex, but I think the other weeks they ended up playing each other as well, and obviously will continue to do so.
Yeah, and I think in the round one, Puppy Paw beat Luciferon in the upper bracket, and I knocked him out in the low bracket. So it's not. And I have a good record versus Luciferon, which is kind of strange because he's obviously one of the best pros. But I think I have a quite good record versus him, and I haven't played against the Viper that much, so I'm not sure how my group would go, but I think I could do decent. And Puppy Paw has a good record against the Muslim, so
Yeah, and I know Puppy Paw actually. I think it was the non-meta Civ weekend. Lost to Marine Lord 2-1, but it was quite a close matchup there. So just how I mentioned earlier, anyone has the potential to take games off each other. It's just making full series of it and being consistent. Against match after match with the other opponents as well.
yeah, someone in my chat's asking group stage is best of 5, best of 7. It's best of 7. So
Yep.
a best of 7 against the issue is for a best of 7 against Marine World or Basic Cutie, it's gonna be tough. But against maybe other people in the group stages, it might be possible. So
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. So most of the series up to this point have been best of 3, best of 5. How do you feel about your civ pool? Like, how deep do you think it is? Because you're going to have to use all the civs pretty much.
yeah, so
And I don't want you to give anything away, so you don't have to feel like.
no, I understand. With the exception of one civ that shall not be named, I think I'm pretty good and well-rounded. I think Mongo's, French, Abbasid, Atri, those 4, oh, 8, and Rus, I feel very confident with, and I've played a lot in tournaments with them. So,
You've narrowed
Yeah.
down the one that cannot be named.
no, not yet.
I've seen some comments that you've made in Twitch. I have a good feeling I
No,
know what that
yeah.
is, but I won't spoil it for
I'm sure.
your opponents.
I'm sure they know anyway.
Yeah. So there's no bans in this. If you could have a ban, what would you use it on?
It depends if it was what do they call it? If it was a band that so that nobody can use it, or if it was a band that only
I would assume it would be a global ban, so neither
Oh yeah,
player could use it.
Oh, if it was that, it would be China.
That okay, yeah.
Yeah. Um, or maybe Delhi. Nothing in particular. I mean, I'm pretty confident with all the civs.
Yeah. Going back to round three, how did you feel about the format, like the way the Civ draft worked?
Oh, that was my favorite round. I think it was round three was no mirrors. You got to
Mm-hmm.
choose. Think about that round. It's like you wanted to pick the civs you were good at, but you also didn't want their opponent to get good civs. You know, it was a lot of mind games, which I think was very good to see. Plus, no mirrors. I think it was great for the viewers and the pros.
Yeah, from a spectator perspective, I really enjoyed it. That ended up being my favorite round as well. I wouldn't mind, seeing that be a format adopted by tournament organizers in the future instead of just the standard, what we're going with in the group stage.
Yeah, that was a great format. I think Poppy Paw said to me, round three he played the Muslim, and that was a big match for him because I think he might have not qualified if he didn't win that match. But he said he actually first picked Roos against the Muslim, just because he knows the Muslim is a big Roos pro, and he didn't want to play against Roos. Not that Poppy Paw obviously is confident with Roos, but he didn't want the Muslim play Roos, so he took that away from him. And that's the option you can't do with that format.
Mm-hmm. Um, so something I kind of expected going into round three was Delhi to be like unanimous first pick and like always used, but it wasn't the case. And even when we saw them, they performed okay, but they're kind of in line with the other civs as opposed to being overpowered. Uh, so how did you approach Delhi, right? Because the first two rounds you couldn't really use them that much. So had you been practicing them a bunch?
Oh yeah, I've been practicing Delhi a lot because I think it's one of the civs that's been changed a lot. The meta is different, so you want to get a better understanding of them. Going into the format, I would say I prioritize Delhi as like my third sim. I would pick Mongo's France, maybe ABBA, maybe Rus, and maybe Delhi. You know, one of those three civs. But I would always want to get Mongo's and France first. And I think a lot of other people did the same.
You seem to be a lot higher on Abbasid. I think they were the most common last pick.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think people are surprisingly, I think you might have even just said it in your stream earlier, where they did get the berry nerf that is a big switch for them. But before that, they were regarded as one of the OP civs. And if you really think about how big the berry switch nerf was, yeah, it's a big nerf, but it still shouldn't completely nerf them to the ground. Eighth civ out of eight civs. So I'm a little higher on them as well. The Mangonel nerf obviously was a big component to their civilization as well, but there's still other ways and other routes to take.
Right, and especially with the camos and the horsemen, um, obviously the berry enough hits that comp hard because it's food heavy, but camo horse and you don't need mangonels in that comp, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and that was one of the big comps I know that gained popularity and very hard to stop. What's the typical thing you build to counter horsemen is spears. What's the biggest thing to counter spears is camel archers, and then that's the exact build you have. You have the cheaper villager, double villager production with two TCs, and you're able to support the economy much better than other civs with two TCs because their food production is, they eat up so much food with both the TCs and producing.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So saw some Burgrave Palace at
Yeah.
HRE. Oh man, Marine Lord against BC, where he went Burgrave and then just did the mass switch into Horseman. Oh, that was great.
No,
Um,
I think that's awesome too. Like the
yeah,
Burgrave coming in with the met, like it's a cool thing that you probably don't expect, but you have to like now watch out for. And
yeah,
that's good to
No.
see that HRA has an option in H3 where before it's like you're trolling if you're going that, you know? It's like it's fun to see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. BC did it on Altai, which kind of got me thinking. Well, before they changed the map to have more wood, but you think of the wood you save based on instead of putting 5 barracks like on that map, that's kind of a big deal, and I've never really thought about that before.
I think the big key that people don't forget that people forget about is I think the tech time is like 6 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you pump them
to
out real quick.
yeah.
Yeah, I think versus certain civs, like I think who was it, Viper and Marine
He's
World.
fine. He's fine. You're good.
He got the Burger Palace and he just sent MMA or whatever at Viper, and the English doesn't have that effective units at early on to deal with MMA. So like they have the wrong bows, but unless you're H3, you have to get stable, you have to get an archery range, and it's just you just can't deal with it. So it's a good timing push.
Yep. Are there any other kind of builds you think have been underexplored? Stuff you kind of maybe not try for Golden League, but maybe things you want to mess around with on ladder to test out.
That's a good question too, because there has been a build I've been trying a lot more, and it's the English Villager Rush, and I did that versus the Muslim today, and I've done that a lot on my Smurf. I'm not going to say which one, but I have a different Smurf that I've been doing it, and there's actually a Reddit post on it, and I saw DrDabston comment on this, but it was this guy who complained that you cannot counter the strat, it's toxic, and he was China on Hill and Dale. I don't know if you remember the post, but
Yeah, I do.
it was that guy was actually me.
Oh,
Not
that's
me, but
hilarious.
I did it to that guy, yeah.
Well, if it's
Um,
you, I don't expect it to be countered. But if it's normal lower elo people on the ladder, then typically it would make a
think
little more sense.
I think it's a decent strat that has some potential, especially if you get super lucky with the spawns. If they have their gold and their berries right beside each other, it can mess someone's day up.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned the Muslim. I think State did it to the Muslim, if I remember correctly.
Uh,
I
that
believe it was State versus the Muslim.
that was running. That was actually
Running.
running.
Oh,
Who
it was
did it.
running.
Yep.
It was running.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So running did it to the Muslim and ended up. It was a crazy back and forth. I think the Muslim wasted a lot of time trying to chase down the villagers back and forth, and it was a very interesting map spawn. And he definitely had pressure back and forth, but it's one of those things you never really expect until it happens to you, and you don't know how to adapt unless you've seen it before.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome to just see. Maybe my opponents will see me at my English. They'll be chatting. They're like, "Oh, maybe it's something I have to watch out for." So it's cool to try out.
That poor guy on Reddit, man, just getting flamed, saying, "Oh, you're bad." It's just
Yeah,
totally
but
stoppable, and little did he know it was Wham. So Golden League. Let's see group stages. First match of the weekend. Your brother getting thrown into the fire, going up against Marine Lord. It's gonna be tough.
yeah, I don't have a good record versus Marine World. To be fair, a lot of the games were a long time ago, but
It's the bad
it's
map spawns.
it
I
was
actually
cool, yeah,
I
but,
say that because I actually remember one specifically that your stone as Mongols was like a light year away from your TC, and I think Marine Lord threw a couple spearmen out right off the bat and burned it down, and that was the big difference.
I was a little salty about that, but you know what? He played better than me. He identified that, and I didn't. I could have built barracks also, but Marine World is so good with that. So it's gonna be tough for Puppy Paw, but obviously I hope he does well.
So I know you mentioned, Mongols and French are kind of your main civs if you had to pick them and play them. But if you didn't, we're not no play regards at all. Let's just say your favorite civ in general, and why is that your favorite civ? Who would you choose?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's not China. It's not Delaware. It's not English. Um, I guess Magas. Like maybe that's kind of a shit civ. People shit on Magas, but I think they're a fun civ, and you can do a lot with them. So yeah.
I think they got such a bad stigma because of the tower rush, but people don't realize how intricate the civ actually is to play. And you can't, if you just decide to like you've only played English and Abbasid and some of these other civs, then you're like, all right, I'm just gonna play Mongols because they're OP, and everyone thinks that, and then you will have a big shock there with your first time of trying to play Mongols and not having walls and not knowing what to do with some of your buildings and things like that.
Yeah, no, I think Magas is an awesome civ, and they're so unique, and there's so many upgrades you can get. There's so much you can do. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite too.
Yeah, they have a huge variance. I think I saw Snoopa practicing the other day. I think he might even committed a couple days to Mongols alone, trying new build orders. We've seen Silver Tree potentially on a couple maps. They can do the second TC with wood. I think Marine Lord might have even pulled that out. Even I think that was when Vortex surrounded the TC with horsemen, but he went with the early wheelbarrow 2 TC build as
Yeah,
Mongols. So they do have a bunch of different builds that you have a possibility to do. We just haven't seen people try it because their main build right now with the fast castle seems very OP. So we might see some more interesting things coming up here out of Mongols as well.
yeah, I think so too. And you can, there's a so because of your double production, you can even just rush. Like I think you can do a lot with the Civ.
All right, second matchup of the weekend. We have a brother brawl. We have Vortex and Luciferon. So, just you have a twin brother, right?
Yes.
So it's such high stakes, right? And this is your primary practice partner. What is that dynamic like?
Oh, I think I think they probably know what the other person's strengths are, what they're probably gonna pick on each map. I think it's gonna be a close series, just because they are practice partners, they know a lot about each other. But yeah, I think they're definitely gonna be putting 110% effort in it. So it's gonna be a close series, good games. Other than that, I'm not
What
sure.
what if they mind game each other so hard that every map is a mirror match?
I I don't think that's gonna be the case. I'm just gonna be honest with you. No.
I think. Do you think that we will see? Obviously, we just kind of mentioned with it being, a 7 game series. Do you think we will see there's matches or potential maps where we see throwaway civs where you're like, okay, even though HRE is the worst on Dry Arabia, I'm just going to pick it there because I don't want to play HRE on another map and go ahead and throw it away. Do you think we'll see that a couple times in the tournament, or do you think we'll see more where it's like always going to attempt to be competitive and not think about the longer term Civ matchups?
Um. Yeah, it's something I've thought about. Throwaway Civ. It's an interesting idea, but uh, if you want to do that, you want to have very strong civs on at least most of the maps, because you need to win 4 games. So like throwing one map's not a big deal, but you can't. It's a possibility, yeah. I think
I feel like
that's
all the
what.
civs are good enough now to where you don't really want to do that. It's not like N4C where you could throw away English because it would be so hard to win with them anyway.
I guess that's kind of what I thought of that during N4C, and that's probably why it just popped in my brain again.
Well, yeah. I mean, even if you're playing like Atri on Dry Arabia, it's bad, but it's not. I wouldn't do it, but it's not impossible to win, I guess.
And you can always try one of these random strats and shock someone with it, and it being a throwaway game turning into a shocking win that's very exciting too.
Yeah, and you might see that especially against matchups like I don't know, I'd say Polypod Marine World, where Polypod throws HRE away and then picks Mongoose on Mongolian Heights, so he can try to get a win and
Mm,
even up the series.
Right.
yeah.
You probably won't see that in pros who are very closely skilled together, but big gaps you might, yeah.
You calling out your brother?
No, I'm not. He's good.
Um, so this is kind of a unique situation. Not a lot of tournaments like this where you kind of have a week now to prepare for each opponent. What's kind of your process and your thought process to prepare for that?
Uh, I don't think it's a tough question because to be honest, I don't think a lot of people are preparing for their opponent. I think they're just trying to get a lot of games in general because
Hmm.
you have to play so many civs that preparing for your opponent means preparing for every single civ.
Yeah.
So I think there's people just trying to play their play all the civs. Yeah.
I think I heard Beastie mention that kind of a similar take on it after N4C, where someone asked a similar question, where it was, if I'm going to spend all my time trying to focus on countering that person or whatever they're doing, then you're not honing in on your craft and your weaknesses and your strengths and focusing on really what you need to. You're focusing on other aspects that don't really benefit you long term.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I would agree.
You've been creeping on Viper stream at all?
I've been yeah, a little bit, not too much.
All right, cool. So yeah, then the other two matchups, of course, BC Cutie to Muslim, and then you and Viper. So I'm really excited for this weekend. It's going to be all four matchups really exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, I think.
Big money on the line now. Already obviously have secured some money there. And is this your biggest winnings as far as a tournament has gone for tournaments in general?
Oh yeah, definitely. The last one was win a series. I mean, win a championship. That's what, at least 2 months ago. So this more than
hmm
doubles it. So it's awesome.
Sweet, sweet. Are you going to? Do you have anything that you or your brother are planning on with your prize money? Are you gonna upgrade the PCs again?
No, I did that only six months ago. So I'm just gonna save. Just
There
save.
you go.
Oh, you could pool your money and get something really cool.
No.
Bunk beds.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna get. Bunk beds. Uh,
All right, awesome. So, Dabs, you got anything else?
No, that's about it. I think we covered most of the things I wanted to ask, and or just about everything I did.
Yeah, I got all my questions answered. So, Wham, thank you so much for hopping on with us, and definitely be pulling for you and your brother this weekend, because we're all North Americans on this podcast, so we got to root for NA.
yeah, that's awesome. But thanks for having me, man. I always enjoy talking about AOE4, RTSs in general.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So, certainly have an open invitation anytime you want to come back. And those of you watching, I know you've been streaming a little bit more, so go check out Wham's Twitch at Wham011 or 011, and then Puppy Paw stream as well. So he's been streaming a lot too.
Yep. Thank you guys. I'm sure I'll see you around. So thank you.
Awesome.
you know it.
Yeah.
Catch you later.
All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.